Good evening. We have another week of most upvoted questions on the Overwatch University subreddit. It's the final week of Season 9 before Season 10 begins. Let's get it started. As someone who has never played Overwatch 1, how is it different? So after about 50 hours on Overwatch 2, some Twitter things started popping up on my feed about how tanks need to be fixed, go back to 6v6, etc. Personally, I did think it was odd that every other role had 2 per and tank was the only one, but I just thought that since tanks are harder to kill generally, having played tank and DPS during this time, I can't really think how it would be so much more different than 6v6. Is it a genuine thing that tanks are now bad, or is people complaining just because of change? Okay, to answer the top of the question is, as someone who has never played Overwatch 1, how is it different? Well, as someone who has played Overwatch 1 for 4,000 plus hours, and it was my main, Overwatch is still my job, but you know, the biggest difference was, besides having the additional tank and the additional player, it was honestly the endless fights. Because you have an extra player, even if you lose one from a random pick, it's still very winnable 5v6, because in a 5v5 environment, getting a single pick means a lot, right? You're only at 80% strength. You lose 20% of your team with the kill. But in a 6v6, isn't it worth, each player is only worth like 16% of your team or something like that. So first of all, in the 6v6 Overwatch 1 environment, getting a pick wasn't as meaningful, like it was still winnable. So the tempo and everything else shifts alongside of that. Because there's an extra hero with extra abilities, extra synergies, the other team has extra hero with things that can be used to mitigate stuff, things wouldn't die. I would say fights would last longer than they do now, and it was a big mess on the screen. It was manageable at the time because a lot of people who played Overwatch 1 started when there were less heroes and slowly like worked their baseline up as they slowly added more heroes, but it did get near the end of 2019-2020 a couple of infamous screenshots where there's just so much going on the screen. It was a complete visual vomit on the screen, and you could, a lot of people who watch Overwatch League could see the same thing, especially during Ghost when everyone's popping their ultimates at the same time. It was very hard to follow. And then back in Overwatch 1, before there was role lock with 2-2-2, when we had 3 tanks, 3 supports in the Goats meta, things wouldn't die. It would just be everybody popping their Diva Bomb, then some Zarya bubbles, and Orion would block stuff, and then the Moira coalescence would come out, and then the Lucio beat, and then the Brig ultimate. It was just endless hurling abilities at each player. So that's why I'm a big 5v5 only kind of guy. I think it simplified the game, it made the queue times better, it solved a lot of problems that Overwatch 1 had. Yes, there's the issue now with the other problem where tanks being their only role, having to do everything, and you didn't have that extra tank to help mitigate some of their weaknesses. So counter swapping back in the day wasn't really as big of a thing, tank counter swapping especially, because you had 2 tanks to like offset each other's weaknesses. So that problem became a problem in Overwatch 2, but at the same time, Overwatch 2 solved some other issues that Overwatch 1 had. I do feel like a lot of people are still living in this nostalgia, but don't see like some of the true like things once you like get rid of the haze and everything. Once the dust settles, if we truly did bring back 6v6, people would have a new set of problems they'd complain about, and we'd go back in time, people were like, oh, this is so annoying because nothing ever dies, there's too many shields, this, that. But I don't know, I think it was great for its time, great for its era. 6v6 is one of the few games that did it, but at the time, you know, a lot of teams or a lot of people were actually wondering why the game came out of 6v6, because every game is a 5-player game for the most part. Call of Duty does 4, but 5 players in like Counter-Strike, 4 Valorant, I guess, but 5 players in Rainbow, 5 players, 5v5 was pretty standard across the board. 5v5 in a lot of professional sports like basketball and stuff. So 6v6 was interesting. Very, very interesting back in the day. Great for its time, but very different. Tempo is slower, and that's basically the gist of it. You can still play it in custom games. You can still enable 6 players because the game is still designed with that, but it's inherently going to be imbalanced because a lot of the tanks are balanced for Overwatch. You can still try it out and let me know how it feels for you. Is the meta becoming burn the tank? I've been watching a lot of OWCS matches and scrims lately, and it seems like a lot of the discussion among teams and comms and so on is about hard focusing the tank and abusing DPS passive even through full heals, keeping the tanks out of the fight as long as possible rather than the traditional focus on early squishy picks. I haven't really seen this translate into ranked, but is this what others are seeing? Is this a viable ranked approach? Okay, so this was 4 days ago. Actually, our team overwatched. That's one of the strategies we opted for. So I wouldn't say the meta is becoming burn the tank. It's just one of the many strategies that you can see. It's a lot more apparent in the Orisa meta. If you watch Team Overwatch with Emong J, me, Apply, and Custa, you could see actually during our scrims, we went with the whole like let's burn the squishy, try to pressure their tracer, and try to annoy their Sojourn and ignore the tank. But we quickly found that that wasn't working because Emong kept getting blown up because the enemy strats in some of the scrims were to blow up the tank or burn the tank. So we swapped styles and we tried doing the burn the tank style. and that seemed to be working. So it's less about that being the meta, but more of an option, especially because Orisa's one of those tanks where you have to kind of leave on an island, and she does naturally have to take space and stand on there on her own. So if you pressure her or burn the tank, it forces her to cycle through her spin and her fortify, and once you burn those cooldowns, that can create an opening for your team, especially if the squishies in the back aren't in an area where they can be easily accessed, and we're not playing a full dive commit with Winston or anybody else that can go, you know, attack the squishy in the back. So this is just specifically something that we tried for the Orisa meta. We could do it sometimes for the Junker Queen meta, but it really just depends. Depends what the enemy tank is. If they're really on their own, you can certainly pressure the tank and see if they make a mistake there. But not a hard meta, just something to consider as one of your many strategies in ranked. Can I go far with only playing Moira? Make fun of it if you want, but I want to have the most fun in Overwatch when I play Moira. I game on console. The highest I've climbed is low masters. With season 9, I'm stuck around high plat, low diamond. I'm consistently the best healer in terms of damage and healing done, but I can't seem to carry games as effectively as I used to. There are games where I've lost, where I hit near 20k damage and 40k healing, and I just don't know what to do beyond that. I appreciate all tips. You absolutely can go very far playing Moira. Remember, every hero is playable and one-trickable to top 500, even the worst heroes you can possibly think of. As long as you're good at the hero, you will find ways to win games. So you can certainly go very far with Moira. If there's any meta to do it, it's now. Moira is a very good hero. That being said, Moira is the queen of empty stats. As a Moira, you're pretty much expected to top damage and top heal in a lot of cases. The most support screenshots you ever get with scoreboard flexes are from Moira players. When you suck people off, you throw your damage orb, you get free 200 something damage for free on the board. When you're sucking people off, you're doing a lot of DPS and you're self-healing, especially in 1v1s, which can buff your heal stat. You spray and pee on your team for a second and they get a lot of heal over time. So you can absolutely boost your stats. You're like Russell Westbrook 2012, just a inflated scoreboard. So that's not always indicative of you winning a game. So you can't really be like, I hit 20k damage, 40k healing, and I can't win. You certainly can. You just have to find your way to be impactful. The biggest representation of your skill is mostly like your fade jumps, and then like it's all about your decision making. Do you opt to, you know, heal for your team, play for a good coalescence, or do you actually go on the TikTok flank Moira? That's actually a viable strategy when used strategically and timed very well. If you can pressure and pull 2 people away, you have a free fade, and then you can pop coalescence in the backline and draw 2 people to you. That can be absolutely very viable if you do it at the right times. But at the same time, it's understanding where to find the most value as on Moira. Like where to play, whether you're at like 80% to cold, do you want to just stay with your team, throw a couple heal orbs, and then just win with coalescence, or is it worth it to go flank and assassinate 2 people in their backline that like have no way to deal with you, no reliable CC to cancel your coalescence? And that's something you'd have to figure out as a Moira player. Real question, is Ball not supposed to use ult during a fight? Weird question, but I'm serious. Every single Ball I play with, even the ones that are not dead weight, will ult 1v5 at least once per match, like long after a team fight is lost. It legitimately happens so often that I'm starting to wonder if it's a strategy I don't comprehend. Please, I'm begging for an explanation. I would say it's just kind of like a bad habit. I would say majority of cases, it's just a Ball just like wasting their ultimate at the end of it in hopes that the enemy team walks into it. This probably is indicative of a low elo that you're playing in if they're completely ulting when there's like no reason to, because in this elo, this Ball player has this feedback loop where like an enemy has accidentally walked into the mine and then they got a free kill at the end. So like, it must be a good strategy. But realistically, your team already lost the fight. You're making no progress in your objective because you're not really like ulting with tempo to like, you know, enable your team in any way. I would still say it's much better to use your ultimate in an engagement to isolate enemies, to force them to reposition, especially in hopes that your team is alive to capitalize on it, or else it's just an AFK minefield that you're just praying to get a cheesy kill or 2 for that, you know, dopamine hit for the Ball player, but really doesn't translate to anything at all. The real answer to your real question is Ball should be ulting during a fight, if possible. Why does no one play as a team in competitive open queue? Whenever I load into this match, people play whatever they want. No one cares if there aren't supports. No one pays attention to the team. Everyone spreads out. Everyone feeds. Is there something about this mode that just makes people think, I don't need my team. I'm a 1v5 the enemy team. Part of it might be that I only did my placement, so I'm only a couple ranks lower than where I usually play. These are predicted silver games, and I'm usually gold or plat. But I feel that it's always been this way. I just played this ridiculous game on Rialto where everyone did their own thing, etc., etc. I just ended up going Roadhog, getting solo kills. Here's the code. The reason why no one plays competitive open queue is because it's not balanced. all the arcade and non-roll queue modes are not balanced for tanks. I've said this before, but they did this whole like band-aid thing where they made, because you can pick as many tanks as you want in open queue, they did this blanket nerf of all tank HP of minus 150. But that makes no sense because some tanks have more base HP than others. So you have heroes like Roadhog or Mauga that still have like 650 HP or 600 HP because they have base 700 or 800 HP. But then you have heroes like Doomfist or Queen that also lose 150 HP. So this Queen is sitting at 375 HP if you decide to pick her. They have so much lower HP because 150 HP means more or less depending on the tank you're with. So why didn't Blizzard decide to do a percentile, a percentage of your HP being removed from tanks so they're not like outrageous in this mode? So it's just a non-balanced mode and the game isn't balanced for that, so no one tends to take it seriously. Which is unfortunate, and that's probably why no one plays as a team. How do I combat the hacker lady? Sombra, hey, there. You remember me from my clueless question of how do you stop the 2 flying ladies who were attached? I want to thank you all for your help. I have a new nemesis. The question. I haven't learned all the names, but there's this one lady that puts a skull over the health, and she also pops up behind me after the hacked warning comes up. Feels like she always singles me out, always seems to know where I am no matter if I use Bastion or Lava Man. Once she locks on me, it feels like I'm getting snuck up on every respawn. She moves so fast, it's hard to turn and combat her in time. Do y'all have tips I could use to get her off my back? Thanks so much. Sorry for my lack of Overwatch lore. I just play the game as a casual escape. The hacker lady, to combat her, is a little bit of awareness and peeling, and that's the secret. So depending on what role you play, if you're a support, your job, if there's a hacker lady running around, is to help your teammate and turn around whenever you hear her unstealth. So any of the voice lines like Yonda, you hear like a little vroom, like unstealth sound, you have to train yourself to listen for that. That's first. Second, if you're on a support, you have to help the person who's getting jumped and force her to leave. If Sombra can't convert a kill under the unstealth and the attack with her virus and her hack, she pretty much has to throw a translocator and try to get out. And that translocator has a limited range and she can be punished quite well, so it's something you have to turn around for if possible on support. As DPS, it depends on the hero you play, but if you play like Torbjorn, the Lava Man, like you said, you have a button to press called Overload, which gives you a lot of extra HP. You have like a 0.6 second of the unstealth before you get hacked, and then you can't press it anymore for a little bit. But you should be tanky enough that you can press it at the end to give you a lot of extra health to fight her back. Having a turret in the back will also help deter her if you play close to it. Again, it's just a little bit of awareness and being able to shoot her back. Like, you can't just sit there and accept your death. You have to turn around and try to fight her. If you don't, then you just die for free. If you pressure her a bit and it forces her to leave, it makes her lose incredible value because she has to spend a lot of downtime to re-stealth and find a new angle to come out of and pop you. The biggest goal, again, peel, get her out, and make sure she can't do her job, and then you will probably win the game. I won a comp game 4 versus 5 after one person left the game, only to get 18% added. The first time I won comp after some person left without any warning because we lost the second round, only for Overwatch to give me 18% for winning. Like, F you, Overwatch. I deserve the percentage of the person who intentionally left the game because I have lost every other game when some person decides to leave. I understand your frustration, but you absolutely cannot do that. Like, you absolutely cannot be getting a percentage of the person who left the game. It really sucks that you got a leaver. Leavers suck. But if you were able to get compensatory points for a person who leaves, that opens the system up for abuse, in which that's something you didn't consider. You end up queuing with a friend. It gets min-max like crazy. People are very crazy about ranked and competitive, and they'll do anything they can to break all morals. So they're going to queue with a friend, and then as soon as you're about to win, you have that person leave, and then everybody on the team gets compensated extra SR. That is so abusable. And then in other cases where you're all solo queue, you're going to get people on your team who bully the one person who played really bad, saying like, hey, you don't deserve to win this. You leave the game so we get our points because we went 35-0 and you went 5-15. You suck. So it opens up for bullying and it opens it up for abuse. So you can't have that system. I know you're frustrated, but no. The best partner for Mercy? ? For reasons I like to keep to myself. The reason is a girl. I'm finding myself extremely interested in playing Overwatch. Herein lies my problem. She's a very high rank support player, maining Mercy. Having played League, I know how hard it is to get to the upper ranks, blah, 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 blah. So my main point is I don't have time to learn a slew of characters. I need to become a one-trick pony overnight and pray to the gods I can always pick said character. In League, the supports always do it with carry, so I'm hoping it's the same here. I can get some recommendations of champions that go well with Mercy, have a low skill floor, high skill ceiling, might be OP. Okay, well, basically, you're looking for someone who you can duo with your girlfriend, or sorry, a friend that may become your girlfriend who plays Mercy. So you're looking for a good partner. Best partners are DPS heroes that can enable the flying archetypes, because Mercy can fly to heroes, you know, back and forth. So Echo, Pharah, good choices to start. The other ones are probably just long range hit scans and or DPS heroes that can enable the or make use of the damage boost to change the burst modifier. So Sojourn is a big one. You just charge up, and then your Mercy switches to damage boost, and then boom, you do like a boosted rail shot. So Sojourn's a really big one. And honestly, most hit scans work fine with it, like Cassidy. Ashe is a great one to help with the burst as well. Soldier, maybe not so much if a soldier wants to take different angles, but it's acceptable. Hanzo as well. I wouldn't say Widowmaker. You don't really need to boost the Widowmaker, but you having a Mercy there to help bail you out if you get out-sniped can be nice too, to get res to take another Widow duel. There you go. That should be enough. Is it okay to one-trick pony Moira? This is very similar to that question we got earlier. The answer is yes. You can one-trick any hero to top 500, but just don't be a person that rage quits if somebody takes your hero on the second round. I've had this happen to me in a game where a person is doing like a Junkrat only account, and then they didn't play the greatest, and then the other DPS was tilted, and then they just, as soon as the next round, the attacking side started after the defense, they just auto-locked the Junkrat to kind of like piss him off and be like, yeah, you suck at Junkrat, and then it made the other Junkrat player leave the game because he didn't want to sully his profile, because he didn't want another hero showing up as another hero picked. So I reported both of them. Number one, because you left the game because you ruined the game for the rest of us because you just didn't want somebody else to pick your hero, and you didn't want another hero and your profile. Like, who freaking cares? And then number two, the guy was obviously being intentionally a dick to do that. So I reported him as well, because that's a bad situation. So you can one trick Moira, but if you have a case where, you know, somebody else locks in Moira, because she can be a quite popular hero depending on the rank you play, just be okay with playing another hero. And it's okay to one trick, as long as you're not being a baby and leaving the game because somebody picked your hero. What hero has a similar playstyle to Reaper? I know Reaper's a bit of a meme for whatever reason, but he's my best hero. I wouldn't say Reaper's a meme. Reaper's like acceptable. He's just kind of boring. When I play Reaper, I fight a bit in the front line, then look for a teleport to their backline mid-fight, and then go for a pick and wraith back to my team for heals. It's simple but effective rhythm for me. I've tried Tracer, but I'm struggling at a 45% win rate. Sombra about the same. Those heroes seem similar on the surface, but it's not clicking. I'm rank low diamond. Any other hero I should be considering? Well, Reaper is a very, like, you know, you can play frontline, you can go TP and sneak in the back and assassinate a backline. I would say the closest hero with a similar playstyle now in this kind of brawly archetype might be Venture. You have to play in very similar ranges. Venture has to play within 15 meters. Reaper, should be playing closer than 15 meters. The process is the same, and you have a free burrow as Venture to come back to your team, equivalent of like the Wraith form to come back to your team. So you might enjoy Venture when they're out next week. Sometimes certain heroes and playstyles click for different people for different reasons, and this could be your secondary option. So there you go. That's my advice. That's it for this week's Reddit questions. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys next week.